The first Meg was about a prehistoric shark that escapes from the Mariana Trench and starts killing off a group of underwater scientists. You get a bunch of scenes of scientists who had to become idiots so they could get picked off one at a time by a giant shark. It even has a Jaws callback at the end when the Meg starts eating people at a crowded beach. In the end, Jason Statham saves the movie by attacking the shark with his submersible and killing it by stabbing it in the eye. It's an insanely dumb movie, but at least it was fun. Unfortunately, I can't say the same thing about its sequel, Meg 2, The Trench. This film is one of the most boring movies I've ever watched. Watching this movie was like doing homework, but I did it. I do it all for you. Meg 2 picks up 5 years after the first movie ended, with Jason Statham's Jonas Taylor still working with the underwater scientists and exploring the Mariana Trench. In the first movie, one shark escaped, but this time, 3 sharks escape instead of 1. They also encounter an underwater mining operation in the trench that tries to kill them for some reason. This movie is awful. Let's start with the sharks. The big advertising hook for this movie was that there are going to be 3 giant sharks instead of 1. Yet they're barely on screen for the majority of the film. Also, you've got tons of people getting eaten in this movie and not a single drop of blood. The movie felt like it was more interested in the human villains than the actual sharks, leaving the Megs to feel secondary in the story, even though their name's in the title. The film also adds a monster squid and giant lizards, maybe to try and make up for the lack of shark action, but they don't really add anything to the film either. None of the acting in this movie is good. Jason Statham completely phones it in and has a blank look on his face for the entire movie. Which was surprising because he at least knows how to be entertaining in his roles. He'll always go over the top to entertain the audience. He'll cover himself in grease to fight a bunch of henchmen. He'll grind on an old lady to stay alive. He'll put on a bad wig and get spanked by a bunch of dominatrixes for our entertainment. But Statham in this movie doesn't care less. He's blank-faced for 99% of the movie. There are parts where he'll flash a smile and then go back to being blank-faced, like the director was off camera shouting for him to show any emotion. The movie introduces plot points that don't lead to anything. Jing-Woo plays Jiming Zhang. I'm sure I said that wrong, but he's supposed to be this brilliant inventor. At the beginning of the film, he's invented this super suit that gives a person enhanced strength. You watch him put the suit on and smash concrete blocks in half with his hands. They introduced the suit at the beginning of the movie, so obviously that means we're going to see Statham put one on at the end and beat up a shark, right? Absolutely not. These suits are never important to the story, so why do they even bother introducing them? Also, Jing-Woo has his own Meg shark. He's been raising it since it was a baby and training it to respond to his commands. This should lead to a Meg vs. Meg shark battle, right? With the good shark protecting the humans from harm, right? Nope. The good shark joins up with the evil sharks and then does nothing for the entire movie. You've also got a scene with Jason Statham's character swimming around the bottom of the Mariana Trench without a suit on. I'm not a scientist, but the movie says it's 25,000 feet deep. Shouldn't that have just killed him immediately? Like just eviscerated his body in a millisecond? The look of the movie is awful as well. You've got an entire second act with a group of characters moving around underwater with suits on, and the movie's so dark you can barely tell what's happening. Then when everyone starts getting eaten, you can't tell who is who. I kept having to pause the movie and rewatch scenes just so I could know what was happening. In general, the whole movie felt and looked cheap, especially compared to the first movie. Maybe one day we'll find out that most of the budget was spent on cocaine or was embezzled. Meg 2 The Trench was such a massive disappointment. All the charm that the first movie had is gone from the sequel. You've got a weaker story, weaker looking visual effects, poorly written characters, and a cast that is all phoning it in. It's just a bad movie in every way. If you ever get the chance to watch Meg 2 The Trench, you should avoid watching it at all costs. You're welcome.